This is Shannon Rutherford, the town planner. I'm going to do a quick roll call prior to the start of our Farmington Historic District Commission meeting for this afternoon. I'm going to go in order of the list that I have in front of me. Evan Honeyman.
Present.
Michelle Phelan.
Present.
Jim Calciano.
Present.
Sally Hatzenbuehler.
Present.
Jay Bombara.
Present.
Liz Gemsky.
Present.
Ted Sanford.
Present.
And we had been notified earlier today in writing that John Renahan is not joining us this evening, so he is absent. And that's it. We're all set with roll call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'll now call to order the virtual meeting of the Town of Farmington Historic District Commission for Tuesday, February 15th, 2022 at 5:03 p.m. And before we get started, I'd like to send my deepest condolences to Mr. Calciano and his entire family. I'd like if we could please use this time to observe a moment of silence in honor of his wife, Marcy Schwartz. All right, thank you very much. On to the legal notice. Ms. Hatzenbuehler, would you please read the public notice, the entire public notice into the record?
Sure. Town of Farmington Historic District Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Farmington Historic District Commission will hold an online public hearing on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022 at 5 p.m. on the following applications. Joan N. Leach Jr. application for temporary certificate of appropriateness to install 120-gallon propane tank at 174 Main Street. Miss Porter School Incorporation application for temporary certificate of appropriateness to replace windows and install a high-vac condenser at 92 Main Street. Miss Porter School Incorporation application for temporary certificate of appropriateness to install iron fence along Main Street in front of 36, 44, 48, 54 Main Street. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this online public hearing. The link to this meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington's website at below. A copy of this proposal is to file in the planning department at Town Hall, Farmington, Connecticut, and may also be accessed online at, do you want me to read the HTTPS?
No, that's
okay. Or by calling the planning department at 860-675-2325. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 27th day of January, 2022, James Calciano, Secretary, Farmington Historic District Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Hatzenbuehler. And for our first agenda item, it looks like Ms. Evans is here on behalf of 174 Main Street. Could you please state your name and the address you're representing for the record, and then please proceed with your presentation. Looks like they are muted, Shannon.
Yeah, hang on.
Oh, right here.
There.
Oh, there you go.
You're good. Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, I was, my husband's here messing up my
There.
computer.
No,
Okay. Peter Evans is here. I'm Cindy Evans, and we're representing Joan. I'm going to make a correction. It's not N. Leach, it's Joan A. Leach. I don't know who wrote this, but her middle name's Ann, I don't know what the N is for, but my dad's middle initial was N, so maybe that's why. So I'm here to present this propane tank that my mom wants to put in on the west side of her house. And it's 150 gallons and empty. It is 420 pounds. And it is 15 feet by 1/2 a foot, and it's flash shield gas line to the standing fireplace provided by a separate contractor. Okay. It's not, you would not see it on Main Street. It's on Tunxus Street. I have a picture here of the propane tank. I don't know if you can. Oh, you have it? Oh, you have this. Okay, great. There it is. It's the 100 and. Yep, there it is.
120, I believe, is the size, 120 gallon.
And.
So the
what else
height
can I
is
tell you?
52 inches.
You have the map here?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, you have the map. Okay, great.
Yeah, so we have this map that shows it on the west side of the house, just off the side of the garage, I'm assuming.
I don't happen to have a manual on me. I didn't receive a manual, so I don't know if that's something I can add later.
We'll need that when you pull the permit. It's not necessary right now. When you pull for the building permit, it's necessary, but not for this.
It's also foliage right around there.
There's yew bushes surrounding where the tank's gonna go.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you need to share with the commission at this point?
Is there anything else I need to say other
Just
than
to share, yeah, to say, no, that's fine. And if
that's
if
the
not, then-
proposed tank?
Perfect.
Just so
Okay.
you know, they're replacing a wood stove
Okay,
because Joan is having some problems. So we thought the propane would be easier, cleaner, easier.
okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify 2 quick points. So again, I believe it's 120 gallons, not 150, correct?
So that's, right, yeah, so the permit,
'Cause I thought I heard 150.
right, no,
earlier.
this was submitted, I don't believe they come in 150. I think
Okay.
it's 120. I think the propane tanks that we're typically seeing come through are 120.
Okay, thank you. And then the other piece was that I thought I heard 15 feet long, but I believe when I looked at the dimensions that it was 15 feet, but that,
So that's 15 feet of 1/2 inch flash shield gas line to freestanding fireplace provided by separate contractor. So that's just a description. So that's the tubing that's gonna run
Got
from
it. Okay.
the tank. So there's 15 feet of tubing that's running from the tank to where it's connecting to the gas line is 1/2 inch tubing that's being used.
okay, thanks for clarifying that. So we'll open it up to questions and comments from the commissioners. And Mr. Calciano, although you can't see live here, do you have any questions for the applicants?
No, I have the map, visited the property, so I know where this is going. And you're right, 15 feet sounded like the tank. Wow, that grew from 50. So I don't have any problems with this. I think it's well hidden as possible, especially considering there's a corner lot involved, but I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Hatzenbuehler?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to clarify. Did you say that there's yew bushes near it to sort of protect them from being seen?
Yeah.
I believe
Ms.
that's-
Evans, that question's to you. Can you confirm that there's
Oh, to me, yeah.
yew bushes there?
I
Cindy?
thought that's what somebody had said, that the yew bushes are hiding it or they're protecting it from being seen.
I believe that's what was stated on the record. I don't know why
Okay.
she's.
All right. Thank you. Then I don't have any further questions.
Okay, just make sure, Ms. Evans, can you hear us? I don't think that they can
I
hear
don't
us.
think she can hear. Yeah.
No, I don't know why.
Ms. Evans, can you hear us?
No, I do.
Their volume may be off. Yeah, well, I'm not sure that we're gonna get any other questions answered.
Okay, well, that's fine. Let's keep going through and then if we need to, I can
Okay.
always type a comment in the chat, like see if I can get them to.
Okay, okay, all right, Ms. Gemske,
No questions, thank you.
thank you. Ms. Phelan?
No question. The yews are pretty mature and would obscure that tank, I think.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bombara?
No questions, Evan, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Sanford?
No questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Hearing none. All right, if anybody's on from the public, oh, Mr. Bombara?
Sorry, I was waiting to get somebody leaving my office.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to look at the thumbnails and at the same time. All right, are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners? All right, hearing none. If anybody's on from the public and would like to be heard, please raise your Zoom hand. Excuse me, and Shannon will unmute you.
Okay, and I'm checking and there are no, again, if anyone has a comment regarding this application, please raise your hand and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, I'm seeing none. There are no hands raised.
All right, hearing none. Thank you very much.
And
Is
I
there a
think-
motion on?
No, I think, Ms. Evans, can you hear us now?
Mhm.
Okay. There had been a question regarding the plantings that are here. Can you just confirm that for the record? That's at the side of the house. What's there? I believe
Yeah,
either
I
you or
would say it's about, let's say about 6 feet out from the west side of the house, there's a yew bush.
okay,
My dad built like a berm and then put maybe 3 yew bushes along there. They're really big and overgrown. Actually, my husband trimmed them earlier after my dad died. So it will provide some coverage too of the propane tank so that it won't be an eyesore for the neighbors, you know, at 172 Main or number 2 Tungus Street.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion that we grant a temporary certificate of appropriateness for 174 Main Street to install a 120-gallon propane tank as shown on the application as submitted.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say aye. Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for calling in. You're free to log off now. So we're set. And
Can you
when you're
just,
ready, there's a building permit application.
doesn't the propane company, the Quinoco have to receive a permit from the town hall first?
Correct. So that's the building permit. So they'll apply.
They started one, so I'll take it off hold.
Okay.
tomorrow.
It's already underway. So yes,
So I can go ahead and make an appointment for them to come out to the house?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
great. Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And it's nice seeing all of you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. For our second agenda item, Ms. Bradley is here on behalf of Ms. Porter's school. Even though we're very familiar with you, could you please state your name and the address you're representing for the record, and then please proceed with your presentation.
Oh, Katie, you gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Bradley. I'm here tonight representing Miss Porter's school. And I believe the first applicant, yes, the first application is for 92 Main Street. That is the head of school's house. And we are asking for permission to install central air, which will require a Samsung air handling unit outside on the north side of the house in the driveway. And then yes, that's the first. And then we're also asking for these Marvin aluminum clad windows. We will be replacing all the windows in the house. And simulated divided lights, double hung. Every window will match the existing window pattern. Except for one that is above the driveway on the north side. At some point in time, I believe in the 80s or 90s, someone put a large, and I've lost the word for it, but it's a window that opens up with a crank. And so it no longer matches the rest of the double hung true divided or the divided light windows. So we would like to bring that one back to its original appearance. And I have a photograph of that further in the application. That is the unit. That's just a sample of what the windows look like. It won't have this pattern, of course. This just gives detailed information about how the windows are made. So I think we can cut through. There we go. So this is the house, and to start with, the unit is on the north side of the house, which is on the right side of the house as you're facing the house from Main Street. And there will be, I think the next picture shows that we already have one there that you gave us permission for several years ago, and that fits nicely under the side porch. However, the new one is not going to fit under there, and it's going to have to go under the kitchen window to the right of that side porch. But it is still fairly difficult to see from the from Main Street, and it's typically where they keep their trash cans right now. I just moved the trash can out for the picture. And that's standing on the sidewalk in front of 90 Main Street. And that bright white object is supposed to replicate the where the unit will be, but obviously it won't be bright white. It will be dull and difficult to see, I hope.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I use those same pictures to show the window patterns of the mullions, but then the window that we're thinking we'd like to replace is that one. We're going to change the style back to the original style of window.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. We'll open it up to questions and comments from the commissioners, and we'll start first with Mr. Sanford.
I think it's great that you're going to change that casement window back to a double hung.
Thank you, Case.
And I think the location of the unit, the air conditioning handling unit, is probably about the best you could do. So I have no problems with any of it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bombara.
Yeah, I have the same thoughts that Jed did. I think that it's all fine. And thank you for putting the matching window in.
Ms. Phelan.
No questions.
Ms. Gemske.
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
I'm all set as well. Thank you.
Mr. Calciano.
Like the changes, no problems.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, if anybody from the public is on and would like to be heard, please raise your Zoom hand and Shannon will unmute you.
Again, if anyone's called in to make a comment regarding this application, please raise your hand in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, there are no hands raised.
All right, thank you very much. Hearing none, is there a motion on this application?
And I'll make the motion that we grant a temporary certificate of appropriateness to Ms. Porter's school for 60 Main Street, I'm sorry, for 92 Main Street, for the replacement of the window and the installation of the air handling unit for central air in accordance with the application as submitted.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say aye. Hearing none, and any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't go too far. For our third agenda item, Ms. Bradley stays with us here on behalf of Ms. Porter's school. Could you please once again state your name and the addresses you're representing here for the record, and then please proceed with your presentation.
Hello, my name is Katie Bradley. I'm here tonight representing Miss Porter's school, and we would like permission to install an iron fence along Main Street in front of 36, 44, 48, and 54 Main Street. That would essentially start where the other fence that you have given us permission to install stops. And I believe this was the other application. So I included the original application. And if you remember, when I was here, we talked about taking an additional horizontal bar off and working with alloy welding to try to see if they could come up with, I believe that's called a spigot or a spindle, the top of it. And it turned out that Ted Sanford has an original one that they had at the store.
Wow.
He loaned that to me, and I gave it to Alloy Welding, and they have come up with a very similar design, but this design would it takes that same horizontal bar that you asked us to take out in the first application, and then adds I'm not sure what they're called. Why do I think it's not the spindle? What are they called? The spear. Add the spear that matches the original spear that Ted had. And so that is what we are presenting for. Obviously, we would do the same thing for the entire length from basically the firehouse to People's Bank with your permission.
Okay, thank you very much, and very cool that Mr. Sanford had that, and thank you for loaning that to them. All right, we'll open it up to questions and comments from the commissioners. We'll start first with Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
I have no questions. I love the idea that you're able to keep the same design and the spear. I think that's very cool, and so that's kind of exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Bombara.
Yeah, I agree with Sally. All looks good.
Thank you, Mr. Calciano.
Look forward to seeing that completed. Happy with that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanford.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
Thank you very much, Ms. Phelan.
No questions.
Ms. Gemske.
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, if anybody from the public is on and would like to be heard on this application, please raise your Zoom hand and Shannon will unmute you.
One more time, if anyone's called in to offer comment on this application, please raise your hand and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, there are no comments.
Okay, thank you very much.
May I ask a question just so that I'm
Absolutely.
clear, because staff's the one that gets to make sure when the building permits come through that this
Absolutely.
is done correctly. So Katie, so we've got the post ball that's going to go on the end, but rather than the fleur-de-lis in the middle, it's going to look more like this representation of the spear.
Yeah. Actually, this spear is a fleur-de-lis, but it's one that was probably buried and has rusted and deteriorated. So we are going to be presenting the fleur-de-lis as that you see in this drawing. That's what we're applying for. The original application involved some sort of little pointy spears with the ball on top. And when Ted said that he thinks he has a spear from 1880s or 1890s at the store, and we looked at it, and that is the shape. It's just, it's an archaeological object now. It's probably buried but that is, so ultimately the fence will have the fleur-de-lis.
Okay, fleur-de-lis and no top rail. So it'll have the rail underneath, the fleur-de-lis, and then the rail at the bottom, and nothing, no top rail.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me. Again, we're the one, I get the building permit, and I just wanted to make sure I knew what I'd be approving when the time came. So thank you.
Absolutely. Good questions as always. All right. Thank you very much. Is there a motion on the application?
I'll make a motion that we propose a temporary certificate of appropriateness to Miss Porter's school for the properties from 36 Main Street to 54 Main Street for the installation of an iron fence to match the previously approved iron fence, with the exception that the top will have these iron spears as shown on the drawing. I guess that's the motion. I don't know. We need to amend the other application approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Barra. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I can second that.
All right, any further discussion on the motion? So I would ask, is this for Shannon? Mr. Ibarra had mentioned needing to potentially amend the previously approved certificate, temporary certificate of appropriateness. I'm curious whether that, can't quite remember if we specified the type of
So
spear.
what we did, so this is from December, I knew this was going, that one I was, so December 14th, 2021. This is the fence discussion, and it was to approve the application to install iron fence as presented and on file with the condition the top bar may be removed from the fence design. At that point, I believe there was an ornamental, it was a spear. I don't think it was exactly the fleur-de-lis. I think let's handle this one as is, and I think, quite honestly, I think we're fine with the other ones, but.
Okay. Well, thank you for being prepared as always. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say aye. Hearing none, and any abstentions? Hearing none. All right, this motion passes as well. Thank you, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening.
You too, thank you. All right, that concludes our public hearing for the evening. Shannon, do you have a staff report this month?
I do not. I
Okay,
don't have any, there's nothing outstanding at the moment.
all right, thank you. For other business, we have 5 items for discussion tonight. It may seem daunting, but I don't think it's anything too crazy. For the first one, the Farmington Historic District expansion, wanted just to check in here with the commission to see if anyone has had any luck with finding folks who are interested in joining the historic district.
So Evan, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I have a few houses or owners that I believe are interested in the Waterville area. I do need to touch base with them. I don't want to, nobody has said definitely yes or to use their names yet. So I'm unfortunately going to have to get back to you and Shannon, but I'm hoping that we can get a couple down there, which, as you recall, we do have a property down there already. So it'd be nice to start to get those going. But those are 2 that I potentially have.
Okay, thank you. And anybody else? Shannon, would you mind please giving a quick overview again for the commission on the process of the expansion?
Sure, I can. It's a multi-step process outlined by the State Historic Preservation Office. The first step is obviously soliciting the interest, and then a report is done. It's really a historical summary of the property and the ownership of the property and the historical significance and architectural interest of the property. It's generally anywhere from a 1 to 2 page summary. There's photographs taken of the building and the property for the record and for the report. And our historic district maps are updated. The ordinance has to be modified. So once that documentation is all complete, then we send it to the State Historic Preservation Office, and we also send the information to the town council so that they're aware that this process has been undertaken and that we're starting this process for the Farmington Historic District. It has to go to TPZ for their review and concurrence. And then once we hear back from TPZ and the State Historic Preservation Office, then we can schedule the hearing with the Farmington Historic District to hold a hearing regarding the addition of the property or properties to the district. There's notification requirements that go with that, that staff normally takes care of. And then after the hearing, depending upon whether the property is added as an individual property or it's an addition to the district, meaning that it's a property immediately contiguous to the main body of our historic district as opposed to some of the outlying individual properties. Then if it is immediately contiguous, then those property owners have to actually submit a ballot. There's a ballot and voting process that takes place via the clerk's office. And there's notifications and timing with respect to that. And if all of that aligns and we finish all of that, then the final step is to have a hearing with town council to officially accept these properties and amend the town ordinance to include these properties as officially being adopted into the Farmington Historic District.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we discuss proceeding, do any commissioners have the time and or are interested in assisting with the expansion research process? And you don't need to make a decision tonight, but just wanted to kind of bring the topic up.
Yeah, I mean, Evan, I'd be happy to help with that. I mean, we're fortunate. I don't know if people are aware of the what we call the Prentice papers, or there's other things we call it, but it was done in the 1980s. There was a survey of just about every home in the area, in the Farmington area, which has an awful lot of information. And typically you find, for some of these properties anyway, that a lot of that work's been done. So it's a good starting point, and it's not hopefully too much time or energy for somebody to work that. And I know Lisa Johnson has offered in the past. I know she may not be available for a while, but I suspect if, depending on when we started the process, she'd be helpful in that process as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And I did speak with Shannon, and Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but as Unionville is beginning their process, there may be a few individuals from the Unionville Historic District Commission that may be able to help with some of the work. Is that correct?
Correct. So right now there's one property, perhaps the second property for Unionville. So we're starting that process. And again, with we're coaching with some of the land research that's needed. And Lisa's going to put together basically like a crib sheet, like a fill out of the information that would normally be gathered. A lot of it can be done online with the clerk's office, but the clerk's records, depending on the property, go back to anywhere from the 40s to the 60s. So a lot of these properties, that research needs to be carried back further. So it needs to be done in person at the clerk's office in order to take that title research back. And that's really for the property ownership. Jay's correct. The library has all the inventories if the home happens to be one that an inventory was conducted on. But the Farmington room in the library also has other resources as well that Lisa's mentioned that she's used as a reference. So, but I believe there are some individuals, but they've never done it before. So it's a little bit of coaching on what the actual data that needs to be gathered and how it's put together for the report. And of course, then that's the clinical end of it with the research and the ownership, but then there's also the other elements of it with respect to how it was, the historical significance of the property itself, and then the architectural interest in styles. So.
Okay, thank you. And, of course, I know we've discussed a little bit that we would prefer to have at least 2 or 3 homes to be able to begin the expansion process, but having tried for quite a few months and still being at, at one application currently, and given that we may have limited resources, which may prolong the process, I'm in favor of starting the process with the one home that we do have, and perhaps if Mr. Bombara is able to get in touch with the 2 homeowners that he has in mind within the next, let's call it a week, great, and we can add them, one or both of them, or none of them if neither of them are interested. But past a certain point, Shannon, I know that we'll have to move folks over into the next expansion phase.
Yep.
So, does anybody on the commission feel particularly strongly about waiting and not proceeding?
I mean, I see it again. I mean, I know it's a burden on people, but I mean, my view would be if we have a house that's ready to go, and I know if it's the one I'm thinking of, that they're anxious to get that process going. I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot and while people are willing to do it. So, I mean, I certainly, if we can do it, I would certainly say let's start. I'll endeavor to see if I can hopefully get 1 or 2 more to throw in there, but otherwise I would still proceed, would be my view.
Okay.
I agree with Jay. I think to, move as if people are ready, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I know the homeowner will be very happy to hear that. We've been exchanging some emails back and forth over the past couple of months, and more so recently. Shannon, so if we're comfortable with proceeding, do you feel comfortable reaching out to the homeowner and letting them know that we will be beginning the process?
Certainly, I can reach out to her. I'll leave you CC'd because I believe both you and Jay have been CC'd on those emails, but yes, I can take the lead with responding. And we'll try and put together a timeline here because we're working with Unionville Historic District as well. So actually our new assistant town planner, Garrett Daigle, is assisting. He's actually taken over the liaison role to Unionville. So
okay.
We're kind of tag teaming this. He knew he's aware that this other property is coming as well. So we'll see what we can pull here in the office, and we'll start to get this moving forward.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much, Shannon. Appreciate it. On to our second item. Hopefully you're all aware of the 1928 building that's down at the high school area. And if you haven't heard recently, Town Council has created an ad hoc committee that will be charged with working with town staff to make recommendations to the Town Council on the next steps concerning the building. As I've read them, the options are: 1, the building could be demolished, and that would cost approximately $270,000. The building could be mothballed and sealed off for approximately $1 million, or the building could be renovated and repurposed for other needs for potentially $9 to $10 million. But those figures may change as more details and information become available. And I've had a nice conversation with Mr. Bombara recently about the 1928 building, and he may feel comfortable tonight sharing his thoughts. But so let's open it up to the entire commission and see if anybody feels particularly strongly one way or another about the building and sort of what could potentially happen to the building. In no particular order.
No, I'm happy to, I guess as usual, say something. And yes, Evan and I did have a nice conversation about it, and I appreciate, Evan, that you got your eye on this and you put it on the agenda for this group to think about, because one of the roles that the Farmington Historic District has is can be to comment on other historic properties. The building is, as you've noted, the high school. It's been the high school since 1928. It is a architecturally significant building in the sense that it's of a style of that time that many schools were built of. It's in a prominent spot. It overlooks the valley, and you obviously see it when you're coming up and down Route 4 if you're going to Town Hall. When you go to the new high school, you would presumably see it. I will say, going by there the other day with all the snow and seeing all the sledding and whatnot, I mean, I think it really is a not only an interesting architectural building, but it's sort of a symbol of the town at this point, and you do see it in many representations, both photographic representations as well as stylized images. So I think it's important to really look at this and try to find a way that says, you know, can we save this? Obviously, the economics have to come into it. I get that. But you know, I would hope, and I'm sure that the town is taking a hard look at potential space needs over the next, not just, you know, immediate, but over the next 3 to 5 years. I see lots of building projects in town, you know, close to 1,000 apartments that are proposed. You know, the town continues to grow, and I know that there are already space constraints for certain departments. I mean, my recollection is that the town was going to buy another building for an annex for the town hall many years ago, and that never happened. I know they did some work on the town hall to modernize it and do a few things, but I have to believe that most departments heads and would say that they could use more space. So I think that, you know, from a practical point of view too, I would encourage the town to really look at this as a solution to that, at the same time as being able to save a building, which, you know, quite frankly, for the last, and it continues this year, it's part of the high school. For the last almost 100 years, this is where Farmington's public school kids have graduated from, and they've been part of this building, part of the community. And I would hope that the community can find a way to save the building. And I guess the last comment I'll make, and I really don't want to be too negative about it, but for those of us who maybe were around, or we had relatives that were around, you know, they back in the late 60s tore down the streetscapes in Unionville, and it was only a couple of years after they did that where everybody kind of went, "Oh my God, what did we do?" You know, you had these beautiful streetscapes in Unionville. They took them down. They have done work in the last, redeveloped yet again to sort of make them a little more appealing, but you know, they really lost a lot of the heart and soul of Unionville, at least architecturally at that time. So I think that we should, you know, try to be thinking ahead, not just dollars and cents, but you know, this is really a unique feature of our community that we should try to preserve. So that's my strong feeling, and I certainly will express that myself, whatever this commission decides to do.
Thank you, Mr. Bombara. Any other comments or thoughts from the commission?
I agree that this is a prominent building. It's one of the first things everybody sees. It just sticks out like, you want to say, the reverse of a sore thumb, but it's just beautiful. It's nicely placed, and I'm sure there are many things that could be done with it. And as Jay talked about, the constraints of office, right now, they probably still need more office space. So I certainly would like to see it improved, because when it's gone, it's gone. And where that is situated, I'm sure they're not going to put anything in its place. The way it's situated on that hill, it just is a building that when you see it, you don't forget it. And I'd like to see it preserved and you know, repurposed to be it offices or some, you know, some other group of nonprofits that could go in there. I don't know, but they definitely should look at what needs to be done there, and that be not tearing it down.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or thoughts? So, you know, I'm not going to ask the commission to take a formal stance tonight. What I would say is that it probably would be a good idea for all of us to stay aware of the proceedings of the ad hoc committee, any discussions happening at town council meetings, and there will come a time when we individually or collectively should or could provide public opinion and input into the process and into what ultimately what happens to the building itself. And so let's you know, all stay on top of that and make sure that we're you know, discussing it as necessary. So okay. For the third item, the Historic District of Farmington Village Guidebook, hopefully you've seen this at one point or another. I can't recall when exactly when this was developed or last edited. I can tell it's post 1990 based on some of the comments in the document itself. But Michelle, Miss Phelan approached me after our last meeting with some good ideas, and I wanted to bring those up to the commission. And so, Michelle, if you feel comfortable, would you like to address your thoughts surrounding the guidebook?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the guidebook has quite an element of time. It's, you know, it stands the test of time pretty well. I think, so I'll just share my experience as a newer member in trying to prepare for the my first meeting last month, and really it was over the Farmington Baking Company. So I looked up what's recommended, what's not recommended for commercial storefront displays, and it said more or less what I would expect, but maybe some of it is what it didn't say. Or maybe some of it was how a posturing that says, how do we replacement windows are a great example. Forgive me, I'm having a little trouble finding some words. But right, there's, you know, the technology with Windows has come a very, very long way, probably since this guidebook has been written. And you know, so you want to be able to encourage people, of course, you know, to maintain or preserve the integrity of the historic district in entirety. But are there ways, or could there be ways that that aren't either specifically addressed in the guidebook, or other ways that we could explore maintaining the character, but stepping up in time from a technological standpoint with building materials and things like that. So, like I said, I think the book is pretty well written, but it is vague in certain areas. And when the gentleman asked, you know, well, you know, where do I go for direction? The guidebook is there, it's on the website, but it wasn't very specific with the doorways, with the door itself. And so that's what kind of prompted me just to bring that forward. Not necessarily that I have very specific ideas, but maybe over time something to think about or brainstorm over, or you know, something along those lines.
Thank you, Michelle. I guess I would just pose the question to the commission, or Shannon or Sandy. Is there a process for editing this? Is there a standard process for editing this? Has it been discussed previously that you can recall?
No. No, Sandy just said no, so it hasn't been done since
15 years or at least.
Sandy's been here.
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
20 years. So I know the Unionville Historic District does have a guidebook. It is structured differently than this one. It has been updated. What I can't remember is whether or not it required a public hearing. Unionville, they take theirs and divide it into sections. So there's multiple sections in there. So let's see, guidelines. So this is an opening. Some of this talks about National Park Service information, but they have theirs divided into these foundation walls, masonry walls, doors, windows, chimneys, signs, as how theirs is divided in up. And then when they're looking at redoing the guidelines, they divide it up. So each member takes 2 or 3 sections to research to make sure are there new technologies? Is there something with the wording that needs to change? Is there something new on the National Park Service site with respect to that? Staff then compiles all the information. So it's discussed at a meeting. Staff compiles all the information, uses track changes so the commission can look at it. We make sure any of the links. So there's links to the National Park Service. Here, we make sure all the links, and there's some further down in the document, make sure all the links are still valid. And then I can't remember if the final adoption of the revision needs to have a public public hearing. So, but it's a little bit of legwork. It's not overly, you can see the foundations, right? It's not this is not overly complicated. The whole document's about, it was 20 pages here, and then that's including the cover and all the preamble and all that. So it's a little straightforward. I think purposely some of these things are left a little vague to allow the commission and homeowner some flexibility without tying anyone's hands too stringently. It's a guideline, it's not a regulation. But, a similar, we could, folks could dust off their copies. It's here, you just saw it, it's online. If anyone needs a printed copy that doesn't have one, we're happy to print it for them. This is a little longer at 31 pages. But a lot of this too has some history of Farmington. There's a much larger, robust history of Farmington at the front end of this document that the other document does not have. And you got to get a couple of pages into it before it starts talking about guidelines and suggestions for, consideration of what folks would be looking for.
It does a wonderful job highlighting those houses there. It's really, and just it really kind of prodding you into what you need to think about, or that was my opinion anyway.
Right. But yeah, you get quite a bit. I think you get, page 25 before it starts, standards for rehabilitation. And this, again, it's referencing Department of Interior, Park Service preservation brief, which is the same document that I was referring to for Unionville. So
in all my experience, the Park Service is the Bible from which you take your lead. I think that's what I've seen in other historic districts. So, and because I wasn't here and somebody brought it up, what was the disposition of that door? Because I'll tell you, I walked in there and I was absolutely stunned how poor that door looks. What happened?
So the tenant put a steel door on, and
I saw.
But we voted down the motion to approve the door as is. Right now, the tenant has the town is holding a bond, I believe, of $2,000 from the tenant until he receives a temporary certificate of appropriateness from the Farmington Historic District Commission for a door that we would approve. And we provided some guidance on what that door would need to be, preferably wooden, looking similar to the door had previously looked. And to my knowledge, we have not heard from the applicant or received any materials from the applicant since that hearing. Is that correct, Shannon?
that is correct.
So the door stands as is right now, and eventually, if no action is taken, my understanding is that the town would begin fining the tenant until the door has been replaced to the, approved by the Historic District Commission, basically.
Okay, well, good. I had heard in my absence that something was happening to that door, but I did not see it until I went in the other day, and I said, "Oh my God." Oh, this is why you have historic district commission.
Yes. So
Anyway,
maybe by next meeting, we'll have a revised application from the tenant, and we can take a look at that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. So, this isn't something, again, that we need to decide on tonight. I think that, I appreciate Michelle for mentioning this. It's an interesting idea to be able to potentially rewrite or edit this. We could certainly take our time in doing so. We could break it out into different chunks and perhaps simplify comparatively to Unionville. So maybe over the next, between now and the next meeting, think about if you want to be, if you have the time, or if you want to be involved in that process at all, and then we can discuss again at the next meeting and see where we stand.
Okay, and I just made a note. I'll share for me, it's obvious and intuitive as to where these are on the website. I will send you direct links to both documents on the website. And again, if anyone's in need of a printed copy of the Farmington Historic District Guidelines, let me know. I can get those to you as well.
Is there any way to get it in a Word doc? Says I can appreciate why it needs to be PDF on the town site, but if we wanted to work with that a little bit and do things like put it in track changes that make discussions or promote discussions in a way, is there any way we can get that into a Word doc?
I could try.
We can see, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to do
because this was originally, again, because of the age of the document, we don't have this typewritten like as a Word document originally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know Adobe will take a PDF and create a Word document, but because of the age of this and how I believe this is a scanned image and not a print to when you print to PDF, then you can go back to a Word document. Because this is scanned, I don't know if the technology is sophisticated enough to do that.
Okay.
So we'll take a look. Yeah, Sandy said she'll fiddle around with it and try to see what we can do, but short of at some point, if the commission wants to do this, obviously it's going to have to be retyped in, right, at some point. And we do actually have staff here. There's a woman here that could do that if we can't get that to translate for us. But the immediate, if you're not going to get it as a Word document tomorrow.
No, I didn't think so.
So
okay.
It's going to take a little bit because it is not something that we have readily. It's going to take a little tinkering.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Okay, for our fourth item, this is another idea that Michelle had, and I think we discussed this. I think Mr. Bombara brought this up briefly, actually, at the last hearing as well. We've had a few applications where the tenants within the commercial tenants, within the Farmington Historic District have made changes before receiving approval from our commission. And so I think the discussion to be had here is really whether the commission feels it's necessary or appropriate to for one of us or perhaps for town staff to reach out to what I believe, and Shannon, again, correct me if I'm wrong, are the two commercial property landlords within the historic district in that downtown area to ensure that they understand the process and are communicating with their tenants to avoid any sort of confusion or difficult situations. Michelle, did I capture that all correctly?
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Any thoughts from the commission on that?
And the other thing I'll say is I know one of them is very aware of it because he was for us many times in the past couple of years. So I think, and I trust that the town appropriately has perhaps reminded him, or he needs to do a better job of reminding his tenants if that's what's happening here. Really quite surprised that it was an issue. So having said it, sure, it doesn't hurt to have staff or somebody just, remind the landlords of that, but I don't see it as being, a big project or.
No, I agree. I agree, Jay. It just felt like to me, and again, I'm newer, so I don't know, and it's just an observation that that there seemed to be some kind of a disconnect between the signage, and maybe it was just a coincidence that there were two from the Brick Walk Lane, two tenants from that Brick Walk Lane who there seemed to be a disconnect with. That's the best word I can think of, and so if that were the case, it would be helpful because they're signing new leases, they're coming in, and trying to put myself in their shoes. You don't know what they know or don't know, but certainly, you want to work with people, and you don't want to create a situation where they have a bad taste in their mouth, which was kind of outside of the span of the control of the historic district. And so that's kind of where my thinking was.
And I don't disagree with that.
It is up to the
Uh,
land, however, to be responsible, and obviously certain ones just want to ignore it and hope it goes away. But I have tenants in buildings that I'm being watched, and if I don't tell them, I'm not going to let you put up a sign. Well, other people don't care about that. They're not being proactive. So I don't know what to say. I think when a tenant who is in a building in a historic district wants to do something, we say, look, this is the historic district. Come for permit. You have to abide by these rules.
Right.
If the landlord's not going to do it, then unfortunately, Shannon, I think it falls on you guys to be the bad guy.
Oh, yeah. We're used to that.
It occurs to me that actually kind of interesting because Evan, you mentioned earlier, theoretically, perhaps the town could fine the door, but that's actually a fine that would go against the property and the landlord. So that certainly would get his attention. But I'm pretty confident that legally they're the ones that would, or he would be the one to bear the brunt of any fines, not necessarily the tenant. So that should motivate the landlord, whether he's got it in his lease or whatever, to say, hey, you got to comply with all these regulations. So, maybe it's worth sending, I won't say his name, but the landlord a letter from the town saying, just wanted to let you know we're concerned. We had 2 applications before us where the work had already been done. And, we did approve one, I guess, but so, I'd be fine with that if that's something that people think is worthwhile and that's something that's appropriate for the town to do.
Shannon, I'm sorry, we're giving town staff more work to do, but is that something, again, not urgent, but something that town staff could handle, sending to the 2 commercial property owners?
We will. So with respect to the one for the applications for last month, we'll probably start with a phone call with that property owner. And then if needed, it would be a letter to both tenant and property owner regarding the matter for the door, because that does need to be resolved. And then the other, I'm looking, I think there actually might be 3. So it would be 792 and 772. I was just thinking of this one, but this technically is a condominium over here. I think it's more residential than it is any businesses, but I think there I'd have to look. I can't remember if there's some small businesses.
I think it's all residential.
It's all residential.
Yeah, so I've been through that building before. That's the one right next to the country club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the street front one, not the new one at the back. So the Elm Tree, correct. So it'd be just 772 that has commercial in it, then would be the other one. But we can reach out and issue, just as a reminder for what the expectations
and the tenant of 772
process.
came before us actually for a window. So he was following that process, but probably just good to bring it up anyway. Okay.
Certainly.
Well, thank you very much for that. And then our fifth item here, Michelle, this is a timely discussion. Michelle had an idea for trying to solicit new Farmington Historic District homeowners. And Michelle, do you want to add some context on that?
Yeah, rest assured, everybody, I don't have any ideas from this meeting, so this will be it. But yeah, so actually, my husband and I walk quite a bit through, Garden Street, Main Street, throughout really the heart of the historic district, and there are or were a couple homes for sale on Garden Street. One, which Evan reminded me was part of the historic district, but one that has a sold sign on it that I don't think is part of the historic district. And so maybe a thought is, and for all my ideas, I don't mind this one. I can pick up. I should have more time on my hands, in a few months, but pick up when there is the real estate changes hands and there is a new homeowner, just to send a welcome letter and a little bit about the historic district and see if we can elicit some interest on their part to join the historic district. So that one's pretty straightforward and easy, I thought.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I think it's a good idea. And again, something that we can, discuss as you and others have, more time, perhaps. Any thoughts, questions, comments on that? Okay.
I'll simply say it's a good idea and that Unionville Historic District has similar practices in place for reaching out to new homeowners. They do it also. We try to do it also with new homeowners that are in the district, so that when that property is transferring, we try to avoid an oops of somebody saying, one, they didn't know it was in the district, or two, that just a hey, welcome, and these are some upcoming meetings and events, and this is where you can find information online. So it's good for both from a solicitation standpoint, but also for information for ones that do transfer but are already in the district.
So for the ones that are in the district already and are transferring, is the homeowner required to disclose that the home is under the purview of the Historic District Commission?
I don't know, Evan. I don't know if that's part of a real estate disclosure, and I can tell you it probably does not show up on the title search, depending upon who is doing the title search. We are finding it even more and more, the land properties that are encumbered with our ridgeline protection zone, and we've had documents recorded on the land records, but because it's not an easement granting actual property rights to someone else of any type, that it's not showing up in title. And we're repeatedly having trouble with the ridgeline protection, and those, I know there are documents recorded online on
I think I remember you and I talking about the ridgeline protection issues previously.
So I don't think it shows up in title. So unless someone's doing their own due diligence and comes in, the realtors, again, it depends on the realtor. Some are really good about trying to find out about wetlands and other things, and others are less so. It just depends on who's involved.
Especially in such a hot real estate market where things are on the market for 2 or 3 days before pending, and backup offers, and people not even going to view the homes. So okay, well, it's a great idea. Good to know that Unionville is doing it. Something else for us to think about, and to have potentially a more substantive discussion next meeting. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
And I just had a kind of a question/comment with regard to both the Unionville Historic District and ours. I mean, it sounds like that there could be some similarities or collaboration in terms of some of the things they do and that we could like share that information. I don't know if it's appropriate or whatever, but it just kind of makes sense based on what everybody's saying here. You know, they do it this way, we do it this way, you know, we can learn from each other. I don't know. Again, I know that they're individual right now, but I was just thinking out loud that the collaboration I would think might be important or good. I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, there could be some things that we could learn from each other, you know, some efficiencies. So definitely worth exploring some more. And thank you, Shannon, for letting us know as well. It's helpful for us as we kind of continue to think about it.
Certainly.
So, okay, on to the minutes. We have the meeting minutes from our last regular meeting on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 to consider. Would anybody like to comment or make any changes? Hearing none. Mr. O'Hara, go ahead. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? I saw it, yeah.
That was going to be my comment. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
All right, thank you very much. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say aye. Hearing none, any abstentions? Hearing none, minutes pass. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, have a great evening. Nice rest of your week. Look forward to seeing you next time, and the meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.